I am not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice.
Do your own research.
Consult a professional investment advisor before making any investment decisions.
This show is for entertainment only. Faites vos propres recherches.
Here we are
in another episode
of the Simple Success Podcast.
And
this is financial life coaching from a happiness perspective.
Still coaching happiness? Of course, TT, it's our business model. It's one of the things that sets us apart from other financial coaching podcasts. That's right. At least I can follow you with some real belief, in spite of that math thing. Yeah, which everybody hates. Anyway, what's cooking today? By cooking, do you mean the topic? Duh! What else would I be asking about? I shudder to think what the answer might be. I really don't want to know. But, that said, I must be sure of what you are referring to before giving you a response. That's the same thing as understanding your goal. Today we're going to look at the question of how many homes can a person own, should they decide to pursue real estate as a solution. I can only live in one home, but I am still curious to know your perspective, which is happiness perspective, by the way, right? Yes, right. Thank you, kind sir, for the proper construction. It's also an abundance perspective. Let's dream a little and visualize success. How many homes could you own if you had all the resources you need? Close your eyes and come with me to the land of visualization. Success visualization. Is this like that old what if you couldn't fail thing? Well, it's kind of like that, but it's more of deciding in advance how things are going to be and controlling them to your and everyone else's benefit. Some wonderland of sorts? I like dreaming. Let's see, a holiday home in Mexico, business trip home in London, beach home in San Francisco, a condo, and let's see where... Okay, now hold that thought where you have lots of vacation homes, because we're going to come back to that. It's the beauty of imagination. It frees your mind to dream and feed your subconscious mind. How is this different from a vision board? It's almost the same thing, but it's portable. You carry it right in your mind's eye. As the saying goes, what you see, you can possess, right? Faith is a powerful thing, my friend. Now, there is no limit to the number of houses you can own. If you have the means and the organization, you can have thousands of homes, hundreds of thousands. It is basically your money doing the acquisition of housing costs in the housing market. Oh, that's good. I can get that holiday home then. Yeah, that's my faith talking. Yes, and faith talk is great, DT. I highly recommend it. But for now, let's say you need mortgage financing on your homes. This is where you might meet some obstacles. Obstacles? But we are not to be deterred by obstacles, are we? We definitely are never deterred by obstacles. We blow them to smithereens by our winning attitude. In that case, bring them on. I am eagerly waiting. It's great to know what challenges we might meet and prepare accordingly. That's true. And for traditional mortgage financing, the more properties you own, the stricter the terms they set for financing your next home. Really? Is this some sort of punishment to serial homeowners? No, not really. It's just a regulatory mechanism about population growth. It's to ensure that everyone who needs to own a house gets the means. Remember your first response to my question on how many homes you could own? Yeah, I said I could only live in one home at a time. That's before the power of imagination kicked in. Also, before your goals kicked in. You're not going to live in hardly any of these houses, if any of them. And there's not a housing shortage, at least not in your attitude. Even if I like that sort of thing? Different show. Is there a minimum credit rating? Yes, there is, but it's not terribly hard to meet. Borrowers who have at least 7 to 10 financed homes must have a minimum credit rating of 720. But that's the kind of minimum we should all want to have anyway. What if you own fewer houses than that? If you have fewer than 7 properties financed, then the minimum requirement for conventional mortgages is only 620, but that's a general rule. It's always going to be up to the lender, as it should be. Credit rating. How do lenders calculate this? Well, lenders actually don't calculate it. It's an independent process called a FICO score, which I can explain with that document that I've referred to a few times. Your credit score is calculated from the information contained in your credit report, which contains information about your credit history and payment habits. And a good credit score signals what? Good credit score usually signals to lenders that you're more likely to repay the money they lend you. Anything I haven't considered yet? Wow, now that is a great question, which I didn't see coming from you. It doesn't come from most people. Yet? Okay, yet. So, anything? One thing. What's that? Now, this might surprise you, but you don't have to be the official owner. I don't? Different show again. Again? What about when I'm asked, how will the house be used? You're going to need to provide an explanation. There are three main types of real estate investments: primary residences, second homes, and investment properties. From an interest rate perspective, which is cheapest? Well, typically, primary residences get the lowest interest rates out of the three types of loans. And this is because lenders generally think that buyers who buy houses to live in tend to pay back their mortgages faster. A roof up above me kind of motivation. Yeah, probably. Some of which may be driven by the fear of poverty and homelessness, which we want to outgrow. Absolutely. You can't listen to this podcast and still be motivated by the fear of poverty. That is good. And now that we've established the obstacle you might meet while on your quest to own more houses, why not look at the positive possibility? Okay, apart from primary residences, there are second homes and investment properties, and the latter two have great potential to generate passive income and become one of your multiple sources of income. Ooh, those words jumped at me. I love the sound of income. Tell me more. That's the plan. After we fulfill the audience's great expectations for
break number 1.
Hello, everyone. This is John with the Simple Success Podcast, financial life coaching from a happiness perspective. Because we know you want to show us some serious love in return for the tremendous benefits you get from us, please subscribe to us in your favorite podcast player. You can find us on both the App Store and the Play Store because our message is for everyone. Leave a rating for us, or even better, tell a friend. Whichever you choose, thank you so much for helping us do this for you. To leave us a written message, which just might lead to more in a future podcast, go to those same written show notes to find our subreddits. There is also our Facebook group page, Twitter, and other ways which we'll tell you about from time to time. You can also find an Easter egg every so often, so listen closely. Thank you again, and keep those constructive ideas coming. Before the break, you were telling me of the potential of passive income in real estate. Yes, DT. Passive incomes are earned by owning assets, such as real estate, without having to be actively involved in their management. In fact, that's a rule for passive income. I love listening to possibilities of financial freedom. Real estate can offer that. Financial freedom through passive income. It can also be a source of active income, where you have to be directly involved. Explain that more. Active means doing something, while passive means receiving. Active income includes wages, tips, salaries, commissions, and income from business ventures in which there is material involvement. And in real estate, this might be maintaining the property and following up with your tenants on rent payments. If you don't have a property manager, yes, but I would really advise that you have one. Being an active landlord involves a lot of work, which some people don't mind. It depends on your preference. I prefer to be a passive landlord. Me too. And you know who would be the best person to tell us about real estate passive income? Who would that be? Omni Casey. He's the author of the Cash Flow Breakfast Club, and he's known as the Investor Guy. Interesting. I want to do some quick online research on him, so I'm not clueless when he's here. Where do I find him? Just type Omni the Investor Guy, all one word, on your browser, or click our link in the show notes, and you'll get his website, and his Facebook, and Instagram, and YouTube. We'll link to all of that, of course. Done. I am ready to hear from the Investor Guy.
Hello Omni, glad to have you here with us today.
Thanks for the invite. My name's, as you know, Omni Casey. I'm a real estate investor for about 20 years. Started out in Hawaii, and I love passive income. Business-wise and investing-wise, I focus a lot in investing. So beyond just my active income right now, even when I stop investing, it continues to come in passively. And that's been my focus for about 20 years now.
Passive income, I consider to be extremely important because
one of the things that I preach to people is multiple sources of income, real estate being an excellent one. But given that, how would you categorize it?
That's a great question. I categorize passive income as you not actively being involved. And there are, even within just real estate investing, there are multiple grades of passive income. Some people just kind of automatically go to being a landlord. Owning a rental property can be passive and it can be active. So you can buy a rental property, and if you don't set up the right team or the right systems, it's not a passive income. It becomes another job for you. It becomes an active income. And some people are okay with that. But the moment you're not able to or don't want to actively be working that investment anymore, now you're stuck with, what do I do with this? And how do I convert it to passive? So true passive income is putting your money or resources into something, and in this case, real estate, and not actively having to do anything. And the only way that works is you have the right team that you know and trust, and you have accountability and reporting measures in place so that you can keep eyes on what's going on, but are not actively involved with what's going on.
Are we talking about, like, say, the difference between member-managed LLCs and manager-managed LLCs?
So I don't think it's that difficult, or we don't need to get that detailed. I think it's as simple as I own a property and I manage it myself, or I own a property and I'm hiring somebody else to manage it for me. So that is the baseline level. Do you have a team managing the real estate for you? Beyond just owning a single family property or a small multifamily property, there are more passive opportunities from a partnership level, as you mentioned. Instead of buying one single family property, I can buy a fraction of a 10,000 unit apartment building. And now I'm truly a limited partner or a passive, investor, if you will. I don't have much control over that, meaning I can't improve the value of it or improve the performance of it if I wanted to step in, where if I owned a single family home or a duplex, I could step in at some point and use my knowledge, market knowledge, or my resources to improve the value of that investment itself. So two different scales, two sides of the scale when it comes to passive within real estate.
Okay. And you could actually take it a step further and use like a crowdsourcing thing like Fundrise or one of the many other sources.
Absolutely. Fundrise is a crowdsourcing.
That's not how you have to do it, but you could.
Correct. Yes.
How many more properties do you think you have now, approximately, than you might have if you hadn't taken this approach?
I think, 100
and I mean,
plus.
By that, I mean, like, double or triple. I don't
Sure.
Know
My guess, when I started almost 20 years ago, and I was looking at passive income properties, primarily single family homes, and then I transitioned into small multifamily homes. And in the beginning, before I knew how to set up my team, I was managing it myself, and I probably could only get through 8 to 10 of those successfully. And so that was probably my cap without being terrible. And I was subpar as a property manager the way it is. And then once I realized that I had completely outsourced everything, I was able to scale to hundreds of units. I purchased 46 properties alone last year to add to my portfolio, because every property that I buy doesn't add more work to me. I set up the team and I'm buying in areas where my team's already set up. And so now it becomes passive once I turn it over to my team.
Yeah. And this is great because you're talking about bringing a team into it. So you don't have to be, it doesn't matter if you're subpar at property managing or super great at it, because you're spreading it out, and great things are never done by a single person. They're done by a team. So my correlation to what you're just saying is I've had a couple rental properties in other states, but I've made sure that I had a local property manager. And
Absolutely.
I built that into the purchase price. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Very, very important to understand that concept. I try to provide a lot of free education on social media. Omni the Investor Guy on various social media channels. My website's omnitheinvestorguy.com. And it comes down to, my preference is to educate so that you can go be your own investor. I love helping you to become an active investor and then eventually a passive real estate investor as well. I understand most people have no desire to become an active investor. And so once we define whether or not you actually want to learn how to become an active investor and you want to jump straight to passive, then at that point, you'll have opportunities to just be a limited partner on something, to become a lender on something, or to buy something within a system. And that's all on the website, omnitheinvestorguy.com.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Omni.
It was a pleasure. Thank you. Appreciate it. It was great chatting with you. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Have a great one.
Okay. You too. Bye.
So what do you think of his approach, TT? Oh, having the right team is definitely the way to go for a serial homeowner. And you've heard for yourself that owning as many properties as you can is very possible. Yes, it is. All housing can be affordable housing. At least from this perspective, I am following all his socials to learn more real estate investment tips. Good for you, DT. Now it's time, as we do every week, to discuss investments and tie this into what? To our topic today, which is how many homes can you own? I don't know how many homes. All of them. You don't know? No, that's the point. All of them. Okay, that's fair, but let me tell you why you should differentiate and care about that. As you know, there are two types of people who invest in real estate. There are those who buy property because they want to live in it, and there are those who buy property because it makes them money. Sometimes those people cross over, but not always. That sounds like a good reason to buy a home. It is. But if you're not careful, you might end up buying too much property. Now, if you're one of those people who buys property just so you can live in it, that's fine, but keep your perspective in mind. When you start seeing signs that you might be overexpanding, then it's something to consider, and we'll talk about that in a lot more detail.
But first, break number 2.
We know a lot about you already because we know ourselves. For example, we know that you know how to listen to our podcast. We also know that you probably know how to subscribe. So as soon as you're done with that, tell us your story. We have ways you can contact us. It involves a special link where you can leave us a message. We may have an email address for you as well in the future, and we'll let you know if that happens. The reason for subscribing? I thought you'd never ask. When you subscribe, you automatically download all future episodes of that podcast. It just happens in your player without you having to go search again. How cool is that? This means better rankings for the podcast, more attention from advertisers, and more money. And this means more and better stuff for you. So your motivation is simple and easy. Subscribe today, whatever app and from whatever place you like. And don't just try to subscribe. There is no try. There is only do. We're changing the way we look at things, and remember, that's good. Eso es bueno, Sybil. Also remember, this is financial life coaching from a happiness perspective. Coaching happiness. Our call to action is right in the show notes. Find it, and you win too. I'm curious to hear how this all ties into investing. You know that's my favorite part, right? Yes, TT, I know you just like I know the back of my hand. How else would you know me? You know you're stuck with me as your friend. Now let's get to the simple solution. Yes, let's. There are different ways to be a real estate investor. Owner-occupied units, renter-occupied units. You can buy units in apartment blocks and have a real estate company manage it. And that's probably a very good idea. So that way you can just worry about your passive income. I like that. Yes, and you can also hire a great team that can manage your properties for you. It's a legitimate business expense, in my opinion. Of course, that's also a great option. I can't be everywhere at all times and make the money that I desire at the same time. So there's a solution you can use called working efficiently. It's focusing on what you're good at, outsourcing what you've not specialized in. What are the advantages of owning many properties as an investor? Apart from a source of positive cash flow, there are tax benefits that multiple homeowners enjoy, not to mention the economies of scale of multiple housing units, such as having your property manager take care of many of them. Really? This is good. Tell me more. When you invest in rental properties, you may qualify for tax deductions and credits based on your individual situation. For example, you may deduct mortgage interest paid on a rental property, and you may be able to claim depreciation for improvements made to the building. So I can reinvest my tax savings. Yes, DT, you can. And we'll later focus on not having any tax issues in the first place. Another major tax benefit for you now and then is the depreciation of income-producing property, because you can deduct the cost of making an upgrade to your heating and cooling systems. You may be able to save some money by doing so. Yeah, I like me some tax-saving ideas. As do we all. And in that case, apartments are taxed at a lower tax rate than ordinary taxable incomes. You can opt for owning multiple units in an apartment block. Anything for the multiple sources of income, man. That's the spirit, TT. And remember, when you own several properties, you can obtain the ability to generate multiple sources of income from each one. That's the goal, right? It's one of them, and it's especially helpful if you want to flip multiple homes at once or have a production line with several properties in different stages of completion. You may be able to use some of the money you earn from selling your properties to pay for repairs at one of your other properties, keeping the housing stock flowing. And being in a flow state is a good thing. This reminds me of those uncompleted remodel properties. Yeah, that's another option you can explore as a multiple real estate investor. Investors buy such properties based on the trust that the construction will be completed. Then, after completion, they make money either by rental income or selling them as a profit. Just keep in mind that getting the money to buy them is a lot harder if they're not already completed. Yeah, that requires some level of risk-taking. That's true, but all great investors are risk takers, at least to some degree. Without risk, you cannot claim to be an investor. You can't claim to gain a profit in anything if you don't put something up first. And that includes your time working for some other employer. It also requires a lot of change mindset, because one man's housing crisis is another man's opportunity. That was the case for me in 2008, and it can be the case for you too in the future. And there's also the option of Airbnb, right? Yes, DT, that's a possibility. Short-term rentals are famous globally nowadays. People even rent pieces of property, furnish them, and start the business. It's better if you own the properties, though, because you have more control over them. Oh, yeah, I want to control the things I invest in. But you can't control them all, and that's why you should aim to own as many homes as you possibly can, so you can invest in whatever real estate business you want. There is sure a lot to learn concerning real estate investment. There is, but you can do it. What are you ready to manifest next? I will think big and avoid a limited mindset that blocks imagination. You can only reach where you have imagined. You are your greatest cheerleader. There's no limit to the number of homes I can own. Right, absolutely none. Omni, the investment guy, has proved that it's possible. I have also learned that to be a real estate investor, you can develop trust in unconventional real estate investments like uncompleted real estate, which has great yields commensurate with the risks involved. That's true. I'm glad you were so attentive to that, DT, and I hope that you'll start buying some homes soon as one of your MSIs. Of course I will. Remember the holiday home I told you about at the start of this episode? Oh, the one in your Faith Talk? Yeah, that one. And my beach house. And I'm starting with those. Yeah, I'll start with those and I'm moving forward. Great. Go for it, DT. You have all it takes. Actualize your dreams. Have you written those dreams down to make them goals? That's a great topic for another day, John. Well, we've talked about it before. Yeah, but today we manifest greatness. Okay, DT, if you say so. I'll be right here cheering you on. We will also be cheering others who want to practice with us on this journey of simple success. Because it's as simple as getting started. Even if it doesn't come all the way true super fast. Even if. Because you persist. And repeat.
Which is how you've all gotten good.
Gracias por escuchar.
Salut. À la prochaine.
This podcast and our other podcast are productions of Little Red Hen Industries. The supporting cast who helps me bake the bread includes
Techno King, John C. Brandy, Alter Ego, Doubting Thomas, Fact Checker, A Small Brown Beef Animal, Seriously, Tiny. Facts are important but are also easy. Social Manager, Abraham Lincoln, Media Expert, Augustus Caesar. Psychologist, William James. Sound Designer, Adobe's Creative Suite. Spanish Consultant, Cameron J.K. Brandy. French Consultant, Leah, the Do-Your-Own Research Lady. Videographer, Eto Monkoshki. Audio Props, Les Paul. Inspiration, many podcasts and other sources, and of course Napoleon Hill.
We also have websites, and you can subscribe to both podcasts. You can even send us a video, audio, or text message, but of course, you'll have to head to the show notes, either on your phone or on the web, to get the links and stuff. And all those clickable links are in the show notes.
And before we forget, the artificial intelligence or AI voices that you hear in our work are offered up by Google, Amazon Polly, and OpenAI, like we say in the show notes. They don't sponsor us yet, but we love what they do, and we just love what AI can do when lovingly crafted.
Finally, you can find us on Podmatch.com, Matchmaker.fm, Podbooker and Podcast Guests, where we consider guests and consider guesting on other people's shows.
And really finally, the music for our pods comes from Cute by Bensound and from Piano Background by Nick Simon Adams, as well as from AI MuseNet. The sound effect credits go to Jackson Academy Ashmore, Canoe CG, Dr. Jekyll, Joe Payne, Everything Sounds, MK Play More Stories, ERH, Sand Emotions, Big Pickle 51, and Just Kidding. Yes, that's his or her name. All on freesound.org. Also, languages are the bomb.
Paul.